Hello and welcome to a quick introduction to AutoCAD. Hopefully you've all managed to access this in some shape or form. So just looking at this now, this is full fat AutoCAD, educational version as you can see there, and this is the 2019 version. So things might be slightly different in the latest 2021 version, but shouldn't be significantly so that it'll stop you doing anything. First things first, you might notice that there's a Learn, when you open it up, we present it with this page, there's a Learn tab, and there's some videos, YouTube videos that you can watch to help you get your stuff together. There's also some online resources. Hitchhiker's Guide to AutoCAD is okay. That's a good place to start. So somewhere to get yourself started, and some tutorial videos. Okay. Okay. But for now, we're going to just focus on create. So let's start a new drawing. Okay, I've got a default template set up, which you can find in the Resources tab, Unit 10, Assignment 1, in the Resources tab of the General Discussion in Teams. Okay, I'll show you that a little bit later. So this is the model layout, and we do this for presenting our drawings. So we'll have lots and lots of drawings, and we'll use the model layout to present them. And that's where we have our drawing border, such things. Do not scale, all dimensions in millimeters except where stated. Remove all sharp edges as a machining instruction. What scales our drawing to? And then we've got this, which tells us we are drawing first angle projection. Initials of the person it's drawn by, initials of the person it's checked by, date, and drawn by. Okay. We're going to ignore that largely for the time being. And we're going to go down here to the bottom and we're going to pick model space. So model space looks like this. Okay. Let's go to the home toolbar there. So over here we have our tools for drawing. Over here we have our tools for editing. Okay, so if we draw a line, you can see we can, by default, it snaps horizontally and vertically. And you can see we've got a number there that's highlighted in blue, and that means that so 116. So if I just type 120, you'll see it changes the length of the line to match that. I can also use the tab key to move between the length and the angle. So if I type 45 degrees there and press tab, you'll see we've just drawn a line at 45 degrees, and let's change that to 300 and then press enter. So you can see we set the line and the angle there. So that's a way we can go with that. Okay. I can either go to line at the top, or if you've been paying attention, you might notice at the bottom, as I click line, at the bottom here it says line. Okay. So I could type L for line, and AutoCAD will automatically bring up a list of commands that start with L. So anything you can do on AutoCAD with a button, you can also do by typing it. So I can just type L and press enter. So if you see me just suddenly start drawing a line, that's what I've done. Okay. So AutoCAD interface. I've drawn some lines here. I don't want them. So I'm going to just left click, and if I move my mouse like this, can you see as I move across, it highlights anything it touches. So if I click my left mouse button once, when I'm not in a command, and move to the left, I get a green square with a dashed border, and that means it selects anything it touches. Okay, I'm going to press the delete button now on my keyboard, not the backspace button, the delete button. Okay, on the other hand, if I tap my left mouse button once and go to the right, I get a blue square. And you'll notice it doesn't highlight until the object is completely inside the blue square. So for example, that only selected this vertical line because the diagonal line wasn't completely inside the blue square. Okay, so again I'm going to press delete. Okay, let's draw a line. So if we want to draw a circle, say we can choose the circle command, or we can press C. Now, if we'll have a look next to the cursor, it says specify center point for circle. Okay, and you might notice a little icon just after that. So that means we have options. So I'll get to that in just a second, but we can just press the tab button to change the coordinates of where we put the circle, or we can just move. Now, can you see there we've got that green square come up, which means we've got a snap point. So it's snapping to the end point. It just popped up on screen there. Yeah, end point. So let's just draw a circle. Again, next to the cursor, it says specify the radius of the circle. So it's always important you read what's next to the cursor. So if we're specifying the radius of the circle, we want to be careful that we don't enter a diameter. Okay, and again, we've got that little icon at the end. So that tells us if we press the down button, we've got options. And what are those options? Well, in this case, we can change it so we can enter the diameter of the circle. Or we can look at the bottom of the screen, and there we can either click on the diameter, or we can type a capital D, the diameter there. Okay, so now we can input the diameter. So yeah, let's just try that again with circle. I'm going to go here. Well, I don't want to enter the radius, so I'm just going to type Shift D, because it says so at the bottom. That's the letter in blue at the bottom, and there we are. Yeah, we're on to diameter. Okay, right. So we can do Control Z to undo things, or the undo buttons are here and here. So we've got automatic snap points. You saw how it snapped to the end there. I might not always want to snap to the end. I might want to snap to different points. I might want to draw a line from the middle of this line. So I'm just going to type L for line, and then I'm going to hold down Control, and I'm going to right click. And that brings up a list of different snap points. So I'm just going to choose midpoint there. And can you see we get a little triangle at the centre of the line? It says midpoint. Now my cursor isn't right on the triangle. That doesn't matter. You know, the fact that we get the little green shape up, you know, it's a square for the, if you remember, at the end points, a little green triangle there, that means it will snap. And there we are. You can see I've drawn from the end midpoint there. Okay, so that was Control and right click to bring up that list. Okay, need to stop saying what else do we need to know for AutoCAD? That's probably about it for starters. So we've got line, we've got circle. Yeah. So the 5 most important commands, I would argue, are line, circle, trim and extend, and offset here. And you can draw an awful lot of things with these 5 commands. Okay. If you want to know what a command does, you can just hover over it, and that brings up a tooltip. Hover over a bit more, and it gives you more information. And then you can then press F1 on your keyboard to get some more help on how to use that. There we go. Look at that. Okay. So you know, there's help there. Right. So we're just going to look at those 3 edit commands. So trim, extend, and offset. Okay. There we go. I'm just going to draw a couple of lines. Okay. Right. So let's have a look at the trim command first. So we've got a pair of scissors there. So what happens when we select the trim command? Okay. Well, next to the cursor, it says select objects, or select all. So I'm going to select objects. So what's asking for there is we're asking the line that we want to use to cut. So what line are we trimming to? So I'm going to pick this line here. I'm going to pick this line here. Okay, I'm going to right click or press enter to confirm that we need to move on to the next stage of the command. So I'm just going to press the enter key. Now it says select objects to trim. So you'll see if we hover over an object that crosses our cutting line, it gets rid of it. So I'm just going to trim that to there, and I'm going to trim that to there. Okay. Now I'm going to look at the extend command. Okay. We've got extend just there. Okay. And that makes a line longer. So let's imagine I want to make this line and I want to grow it to this line here. So again, it says select objects. So this is the object I want to extend to. So that's the line I want to extend to. Again, I'm going to right click or press enter to move on to the next stage of the command. Okay, and there you are. You can see We hover over that and it will extend that line to there. Okay, so that's how we use trim and extend. The offset tool. So the offset tool is like a copy move tool all rolled into one. So I'm going to hit the offset button. Specify offset distance. So let's say I want to offset by 50. Let's see what it does. It says select the object. Can you see how I move either side? And it copies and moves the line 50 away. And you can see that that text is in blue, so I might have accidentally typed 50 when I meant 60, so I can change that and then I can press enter. Okay, now I'm still in offset mode, so I can offset again, and the default's 50 because that's what I typed in initially, but I can put other values in there. Okay, so we can do that like that as well. What happens if we use a diagonal line? So it offsets at right angles to the line. Okay, I'm just going to draw a circle there. Shall we see what happens when we offset a circle? So I'm going to offset by 50 again. I've right clicked there to bring up this little menu. I'm just going to say enter, or I could have just press thing. We've got some options. We can press down, exit, or undo. Okay, so we don't want either of those. There we are. So you can see I offset on the inside. It makes the change the diameter by 50, or makes it more. Yeah, that's the offset. Okay. So the diameter or the radius? Let's have. So that was 95 diameter, and that was 205. 215. So that's how the offset works. So I'm just going to get rid of all of this. So I'm now just going to do a very, very quick demonstration of how I would start and do the first drawing. Okay, so let's just find out where you might get that information from, what the assignment is. Okay, so there are two ways. You can go to resources. Okay, we're on unit 10, assignment 1, and here's what you've got to do. Okay, you've got to do all these drawings. Okay, so we're going to start with the short pin. Okay, so let's big that. Okay, start with the short pin. Put that there. Put AutoCAD there. Move that. Okay, I'll keep these both on screen. Right, so we can do that more or less using the commands that we just looked at. So we've talked in class about how this actually shows a cylinder. We can see that we've got the side of a cylinder and then we've got the end of a cylinder. So just let me explore that a little bit further. Yes. I'll have to edit that bit as well. Okay, so if you have a look at the 3D clamp in Onshape, which we'll be using later. We're just going to have a look at a pin. Okay, so there it is. We can see the pin, but if we look at it like that, you can see we've got that rectangle outline, and we're just moving it around our piece of paper, and there's our circle. Okay, so that's why a cylinder looks like a rectangle. Okay, so move back to AutoCAD, and indeed, let's move back to our drawing. Right, so if I was doing this by hand, I would always start, or indeed in AutoCAD, I would always start by setting up a datum. And all that means is a datum is the point you take all the measurements from. Okay, so looking at this drawing here, we are 19 long, so let's start with that. Okay, I'm going to use the offset command then. Use the offset command, specify offset distance 19. Okay, I'm going to offset that 19. I'm going to just use the mouse scroll wheel to zoom in there. Okay, hold down the middle mouse button to pan, use the scroll wheel to zoom in. Okay. All right, now we want to know what's the distance across here. Well, the distance across here will be, he says, 8. So the maximum diameter is 8. Okay. Yeah, these two things need to line up. The top of that and the bottom of that, and the centre top of that. So I'm going to dive back into the offset command. I'm going to offset by 8. Okay. Oops, daisy. There we are. Oops, that wasn't right, was it? Let's Control Z to undo that. Set. There we are. It's 19. I'm going to change that to 8. Let's just press Enter. Okay, so we've done that. Tap Escape a couple of times to quit. And now I'm going to use the trim command to tidy things up a little bit. You can edit that bit out. Right, I'm going to use the trim command just to tidy this up a little bit. So let's go to trim. There's trim. And I'm going to select that line, because that's going to chop off that line and that one there. And I'm going to select this line here, because that's going to chop off these two lines. I'm going to right click, and then I'm just going to select those lines like that. Okay. So that's the outline then of the box that we're going to draw. Okay. Now, this drawing here is done from the centre line, isn't it? So this small box here is 13 wide. Small fat box is 13 wide, about the centre line. So that means it's 6.5 either side, but we don't have a centre line here. So let's put one in for construction. Okay, so we're going to draw a line. I want to do it from the midpoint here, but it keeps snapping to the end. What do? I'm going to hold down Control, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to pick midpoint. So now we've got a midpoint to work from. Okay, I'm going to go back to the offset command. I'm going to say 6.5. I'm going to offset that by 6.5 and offset that by 6.5. Okay, so that's now these two lines here in place. All right. Now, if we look over here, let's just do that and zoom in a little bit. Look over here. See, we've got two measurements. We've got diameter 8 and diameter 6. So the outside circle is diameter 8, and we've got this circle here as diameter 6. So let's move across. So that means that from here to here is 8, and from here to here is 6. Now again, that's about the centre. So that's going to be 1 millimetre gap here and 1 millimetre gap here. 1 plus 6 plus 1 is 8. Okay, so I'm just going to use my offset tool again, and I'm going to offset my tool again by 1. Okay, there we go. 1 millimetre there, 1 millimetre there. Okay, we're starting to look a little bit more like, aren't we? Right. So what do we do now? Now we go to the trim command, and I'm just gonna select everything. Trim. There we go. Right click. Okay, so now I'm going to take that out, and that, and that, and that, and that, and that. No, it's not looking quite right. We need to take out that, and that, and take out those internal lines because we don't have them on the original. Okay, and I can trim the end of that and the end of that, and then I'm just going to select that line and delete it. And suddenly, it's looking an awful lot like the drawing that we're copying. So what do we need to do next? Next, we need to take those corners off. Now it says here, all chamfers. So that should give us a clue that these corners are chamfers. And that's all chamfering means is we just take the corners off. If we flick back to our original, you can see there, that's a chamfered corner. We've just taken the edge off there. Yeah. Okay. Where's AutoCAD? There's AutoCAD. Right. So, what do we do? Well, we've got a fillet command, but you'll see we've got a little drop down there, and underneath the fillet is chamfer. Okay. So initially we don't know what distance we're chamfering, but we've got options down the bottom here, or we can press the down arrow, and we can select distance, or we can just select it at the bottom. So we want 0.5, it's already set at 0.5, so we want 0.5 on both of them, because that's what it says on our drawing. Oops, on our drawing over here. Where's that point? There we go. No, come back. Okay, yeah, that's what it says in our drawing over here. All chamfers 0.5. Okay. So, chamfer, we've got that. So now we are going to just select the two lines that make up the corner. Now, for some reason, it doesn't keep us in chamfer mode. You might find I don't know if it does if you're using the 2021 version, but certainly 2019 it doesn't. So we just right click, repeat chamfer. 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 And repeat chamfer. And finally, repeat chamfer. Okay, press escape just to come out of that. And now, yeah, it's looking all right there, isn't it? Yeah. So the next thing we want to do is we want to do the circles. Okay, and we need to make sure that these circles line up with the outside edges. So to put the center point of the circle, we really need the line sort of from the middle of this line. Okay, so let's do that. L for line, control and right click to bring that up. Select our midpoint. There we go. Snap to our midpoint. Press escape to come out of that. Circle command at the end point. Okay, it's a radius. We're told here it's a diameter 8. Well, half of 8 is 4, so let's just go with that. Yeah. If you find you get a circle that's bigger, if you accidentally type 8, then you should be thinking that's not right because my circle is bigger than that distance there. Okay. All right. So that's that. That's good. So there's our circle. We can get rid of that now. We've done that. I'm going to offset my circle by 1 millimeter. Okay, so that takes us in 1 millimeter. So that's 1 millimeter either side. We've taken it in. Okay. And then I'm finally going to offset by half a millimeter just to show those chamfered corners. Okay, so that's that there, and that's that there. And that's more or less it. We're done as far in terms of the drawing, really. And you can see, if I go from there to there, it's at the same point. Yeah. If I go from that corner to there, we see that circle touches at the same point. So we've got that relationship between our two views. So the same object. All we're doing, quite literally, is just turning it from one view. Let's move that up a bit, and like that. Okay, and so we shouldn't have things changing sizes as we move from one view to another. Okay. Right. So that's it really. We've kind of done the drawing. So what do we need to do just to finish this off? Well, we've got dimensions and we've got center lines. So in order to do dimensions and center lines, AutoCAD uses something called layers. And that's useful because it means we can put different kinds of lines on different layers. And then we can switch off all of a certain type of line. So we could have a construction layer. And then instead of having to delete all our construction lines, we could just switch off the construction layer. And that would vanish. Or we could have all our dimensions on a layer or center lines on a layer. So here is some I prepared earlier. So we've got a dimension layer. So I'm going to move to the dimension layer. I'm going to do my dimensions. So we're just going to pick that point there and that point there. And you can see, once we've used the offset command, it's all correct. Yeah. Okay, we're still in dimension mode. Yeah. So we go from, no, I'm not. And I'm still in so dimension mode. We're going to go from here. And we're going to select that there, and that's 13, and that's all correct. Okay. And then I'm going to you just pick there, okay, and then let's put that over here, and then it's this inside circle of 6. Okay, so we've done the dimensions. Okay, so just tap escape. So the final thing that we probably need to do is the center line. So we'll move to the center. Now because we're on the center layer and that's set up, any line that we do, you should see looks like a center line. We've got a long dash, short dash, long dash, short dash, long dash, short dash. Okay. But we've got, in annotate, we've got something that creates center lines for us automatically. So if we choose center mark and then choose the outside circle, it puts those center lines in. And if we choose center line and we choose the top and bottom there, it puts that center line in. Choose center line again, choose our two endpoints, it puts that in for us. So then we just select that and just move it a little bit out and a little bit out. Because what we should see with the center line is that it comes just past the thing that we're indicating it's the center of. Okay, and now looking down here, we've got this center line now clashing with those dimensions. So I'm just going to press escape, click on the dimension, and just drag that down. Oh, press escape again, we don't want to select them both. Just, oopsie daisy, just drag that. No. Let's zoom in. There we go. There. Okay, and there we are. That's it, done. In all of 5 minutes. I don't expect you to do it quite that quickly, but you can certainly follow those steps to do it. And you'll see there we didn't guess anything. We measured everything from somewhere that we already knew. If we didn't have a point, we created that point, and then we used that to construct our next few lines. Okay, and that, I think, is that. Thank you very much.